Antonella, sei muto.
Good morning and welcome to this training session today. We are with Roberto Dallavilla as expert. Good morning, Roberto, and
Good morning,
thank you
Antonella.
for being here. Today we will deepen the topic of BIM objects, so BIM philosophy in the lighting and furniture sector. And Roberto will come back on 26th of March to deepen the topic of augmented reality and virtual reality. Roberto Dallavilla is a technical director of Skeinholding. He will explain better the organization after. So Skeinholding is an international organization that supports companies in the creation of library of BIM objects and augmented and virtual reality. The today meeting is organized in the context of the European project SILEO. So before starting, I spend some words about the project. So first of all, I am Antonella Venza. I'm cluster manager of Luce and Veneto. Luce and Veneto is a cluster, an Italian cluster grouping more than 20 companies, SMEs working in the supply chain of the lighting sector, mostly located in the Venetian region. Luce and Veneto is member of the European project SILEO that groups that groups 7 clusters. ELCA, the European Association ELCA, as coordinator. Luce and Veneto and cluster Friuli Venezia Giulia, cluster Arredo from Italy. But we have also cluster Lumière from France, SICAT from Spain, BIC from Austria, and Transylvania Furniture Cluster from Romania. So these 7 clusters have the same goal, that is to support SMEs in become more resilient to future shocks. So we know the international situation is more and more difficult. So we want to support the companies to update their technologies and knowledge to be more competitive in this international situation. The European project SILEO includes many activities, so a ranging of activities. In particular, we have training sessions like this one, but we have also direct vouchers that we can offer to companies that want to update their technologies. We have just closed one cluster, one call for companies that want to hire talents in their companies with a voucher directly to companies. And in this moment, we have 2 open calls. The first one is the Business Digital Transformation Project that will end on Monday, 25th of March. So the companies that want to apply can participate directly using the SILEO platform. And the second call is Advanced Technology Uptake Projects that will end on 20th of April. That is similar, but with more advanced results that we want to, that we ask to companies. I remember also that we are organizing 2 hack days, so to facilitate the in-person meeting and networking between technology providers and companies. The first one will take place in Romania, so we can offer vouchers to companies that want to participate in this hackathon. And the second one will be in October in Padua, in Italy. We will have also vouchers for companies that want to present their results of the projects through the video storytelling. So many opportunities for the companies. If you want to have more explanation and details, you can contact the person that are in these slides in your country, in your region. So I let the for Roberto Dallavilla. And I remember that this is a webinar, so if you want to contact and ask more details to Roberto Dallavilla, please raise your hand or write in the chat. We will stop Roberto and have a direct information with you. So I let the floor to Roberto.
Okay, thank you so much, Antonella, and good morning to everyone. So today we will discuss about BIM, and we will see into our, let's say, presentation, the details, first of all, regarding BIM. So what is BIM, why to use BIM, and so on. And then we will focus directly on objects, so families, let's say, we call it families, such as also deeper in some project to see the real advantages of using BIM into our sectors. So first of all, let's introduce ourselves. So as a Skeinholding, we are an Italian-based company, and we are constantly innovating in our sector. So for us, it's really important to always give innovation to our customer, dedicated to technologies and services, orientated to buildings and to manufacturing companies. Into our group, we have different services and different companies, such as Skeinvision, Skeingear, Skeinbeam, that is the focus of today, Skeinforce itself, that is a network to connect the manufacturers, the engineers and architects, such as BIM Facility, that is regarding the facility management of the buildings, and the Reverso, that is the reverse engineering dedicated to that one. We are in different countries all over the world. We count approximately 60 employees from every different kind of countries where we have our companies, and we support our customer from any different kind of sectors and supporting them. That was just a brief introduction of who we are, and now we will get focused in the details. So what does BIM means? So BIM stands for Building Information Modeling. That means that when we think of the process of making a building, in the past we were discussing about CAD, so standard DWG, that was disconnected one to the other one. But now with the BIM, we will connect all together and will support all the steps into the same file. What does it mean? It means that with BIM, we manage the buildings, we manage the information related to the building, we manage the modeling, so the 3D part of the building itself, we manage the documentation that is connected to that building and to that article. We do it through softwares. So there are different softwares that can work in the philosophy of BIM. And then we manage the design of the building. So BIM is really important to connect and to combine several factors into the same philosophy, something that in the past, before the BIM philosophy comes in the European market and in the worldwide market, it was totally different, the approach of it. Consider that right now we are talking that BIM is really worldwide. So it started in the beginning from the US market, approximately in the 80s. And then now it's always more and more common to find it in Europe, such as in France, in Spain, in Italy, in the UK, such as in the Gulf area, and also in the Southeast Asia, like also Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and China as well. So it's really very common all over the world, and the methodology, it's always the same one. So the way of work, it's always the same. That is giving a big advantages to every user into the building itself. So the BIM philosophy follows all the phases of a project. So starting from the design and construction of the building, from up to the maintenance or to the renovation of the building. So that is really important because we will see that the BIM has multiple dimensions. We call it dimension, that there are steps into the philosophy that it helps us to understand, starting from the concept of the building, even the cost of it before to develop it. So that it's really important to see and to get in details also on that matters. So that's why BIM is always more and more common to use it. So BIM will help us to involve the collaboration between the different actors into the buildings, such as the property owner, the designer, the architects, the manufacturing companies. So the goal is really to get a perfect connection between them, and that is extremely important for us and for who is using the BIM. I'm focusing the discussion on collaboration, on giving information, because we need to enter in that concept with this new philosophy, because it's not anymore just a simple 2D dimensional file shared by CAD, but it's something more. Means that every single component has its own geometry, and the geometry has its own parameters, so details connected to it. So there is a real, every component in a building has its own space into the building itself, with its own characteristics. And that one will be helpful for considering the construction logistics, for example, because I can understand from my buildings or my project what is the space that every furnishing can have into the logistic of the construction site, or also the maintenance. So I need to know who is the manufacturer of that component for the maintenance of my building for the next 20, 30 years. Such as also I can work on clashes. So due to the clashes, we can understand if there are any issue between interior design, architectonic, structural, and MEP. So even that parts are extremely important to manage and to cooperate all together in the same file, in the same building. That's why it's giving us more collaboration and more information on that. Due to that one, then it's important to approach it, because in this way, through to the BIM process, we can optimize the cost. Imagine the issue that we normally having when we develop a building, when we have to build a tower of 10 apartments, up to 100 apartments or 1,000 apartments. With the BIM, we can try to solve the issue before to build the buildings. So we will solve any issue regarding the cost as well, because we will reduce the mistakes that can come in the buildings. Then we can reduce the problem between the disciplines. So also that part is really important, because we need to consider that most of the time right now, due to the 2D dimensional drawings, we cannot understand in details if there is any issue between pipes and walls, or between the structure and the lightings, or furnishing and internal design. Here we will see later with the real projects how it will looks like and how this one can solve the issue related to that one. Then, of course, we can manage different choices in terms of design. So that is something very important, because in this way, especially if we talk about furnishing and interior lightings, it's really simple for the architects to manage it and to understand from that, first of all, the aesthetic part. So if the final result, it will look like he wish. Then, especially related to the lightings, we can understand immediately if there are any issue related to, for example, lighting, shadows, problem in that point of view, because in the files, we will see that we need to connect also the photogrammic connections and so on. And then, of course, that we will have a better organization in terms of documentations related to the project. So that is really important, because not all the projects has its own documentation, well connected and well related. So due to that one, BIM is also a hub for all the documentation and the process into the project, such as, of course, continuously collaboration and coordination in the project itself. That is really important, because most of the time, in the old concept of building, we always see the architect that goes from in one side, the MEP in the other side, and then when they are on site, they have the problem that they are not matching, so then they need to discuss, they need to understand. Here with the BIM, we can manage it through a different connection, so we can manage the combination between them and be sure that they have a better collaboration and they can solve the issue before the day comes. But who will use the BIM? due to this new technology and new philosophy, there are different new figures that it's coming on the market that is helping the company, let's say the developer, to work with BIM. So there are, for example, BIM specialist, the BIM coordinator, BIM manager, and CDE manager. Just to resume a little bit, the BIM specialist is whom is managing the modeling of the project. And it can be a BIM specialist for architectonic, interior design, structural, or MEP. So whatever it's plumbing, heating, and so on. The BIM coordinator, it's coordinating the project in his discipline. So, for example, we will have a BIM coordinator for architects, a BIM coordinator for structural, and a BIM coordinator for MEP. So they will manage the BIM specialist and the activities that the BIM specialist will do. After that, we have the BIM manager. The BIM manager is managing mostly the process to make BIM in that project. We will see in a couple of slides that there are also particular documentation that we need to prepare to work in BIM and to ask to all the developers to be BIM focused, like the BEP, like different documentation related, and the BIM manager is managing that side. And then we have the CDE manager. The CDE manager is a totally new activity and factors, let's say, that there is in the BIM methodology that is related to manage a platform where all the documentation, all the models, all the details comes through. So with the CDE manager and with the BIM, we need a platform that can manage the continuously interaction between the models and between the coordinators. So due to that one, we have a CDE manager that is managing that platform and is organizing that platform to be more efficient as possible. So over there, we will have all the revision of the files, we will have all the documentation connected, and we will have all the steps of the BIM file that will follow it. So those are the most important for figure outs. In different countries, they calls in a different way, but at the end, they're very similar. So specialist, coordinator, BIM manager, and CDE manager. As I was explaining before, we have some terminology in the BIM that we need to use, that they are focused for pre-contract and post-contract phases. So we have the CE, that is the capitolato informativo, also GE, that it's important because the tender will ask or will tell to the potential supplier how they want to manage, how he wants, to manage the BIM for that building. So as a developer, I can say, look, in my building, we will manage the BIM in this and this way. After that, every potential supplier, they need to create an OGI. The OGI, that it's an information management offer, it's requesting because every supplier need to, during the tender phase, need to tell to the developer how they want to manage the BIM as per his information that they receive it through the CI. Then the developer will check and will see all the replies from all the suppliers, and then they develop together the BEP. The BEP, so the BIM execution plan, it's a product, it's a document, it's a docs that it defines all the process related to BIM. Okay, and it's protected by law. So it's a really document that it's extremely important, all of them, because they are entering directly into the phase of the contracts, and everyone needs to follow it. Because over there are all the details related to BIM for that specific buildings. So these three documents can change completely from one building to the other one, or from one developer to the other developer, because over there are the details of development that they want to reach into that particular building. Regarding the modeling phase, we have mostly three, let's say, three words that we use. That is BIM model. So the BIM model, it's where we design and we model the building in the different disciplines. So like architectonic, structural, and MEP. Then we have the federated BIM model. Federated BIM model, it's a BIM model that will connect all the models all together. So we will bring in one file, the archi, the map, and the structural files. And from the federated BIM models, we made the coordinations and also, for example, the product sheets. So over there, we print out all the sheets for the process to go on site and to build the buildings. And then we have the BIM templates. That is where the manufacturers or the architects have all their own objects and families that they want to use into the buildings, and they want to use it to develop the BIM software, the BIM building itself. So those are three mostly interesting points that we need to discuss. And then we have also BIM objects and BIM families. So the BIM object that we will see later, it's a single product into a BIM family. So a BIM family, it's a file where all the BIM objects are belonging to the same product category. So for example, let's imagine a table. So a table in different sizes. So we will have the table family, and then we have all the sizes as a table BIM objects into the BIM families. Okay, so that is the way that we normally build up a BIM file. Anyway, I will show you later how it will look like. As discussed before, we will have different dimensions in BIM. Okay, so 5 are standard dimensions and 3 are the new ones. The first dimension is the 3-dimensional dimension. Then we have the 4D, that is the analysis of the time requested to the completing. So the typical scheme, Gantt scheme that will tell us how and who will comes the products. Then we have 5D, that is the cost. 6D is the management of the building, and 7D is the sustainability. That is always more and more important, and even in the BIM, it's entering more into that phases. The additional ones are 8D, so that is safety. So we can plan accordingly to the BIM model, also the safety during the design and construction phase of the work. So we can see in the buildings, for example, how it will look like, where there will be some areas that we can use it to stock the products and so on. Then 9D is the lean construction, and 10D is the industrialization. Let's say that 9D, it's starting to be a little bit more with the lean construction, is starting to be more focused in some countries where they start with the BIM in the past. So like, for example, in US and so on, they're starting to enter a little bit more in the deeper of the lean construction. 10D right now, so the connection between, a straight connection between the manufacturers and the sites through the BIM is something that is still pending. I mean that we want to reach it, but still no one's working on that phases. Let's go deeper in every dimension. So the 3D dimension, what does it mean? It means to have a management through a 3D model. So that is the first phase, is the most important one from a certain point of view, because it's helping us to have a control of the modeling to, first of all, coordinate everything in a better way. And then the second phase to manage any kind of issue related to mismatching between the different disciplines. So for example, if I generate beams from a structural, but over there we need to go through with a pipe, with the BIM and with the weekly coordination meetings, I can see it and I can understand how to manage, and we give a solution before to go on site. Okay, so that is the most advantages of the 3D, working with something that have a space, have a size into his own building, and that can help us to manage accordingly. Then we have the 4D dimension. 4D dimension means managing the time on the project. That is something that normally was managed outside with different software and in different ways. But in our cases with the BIM, we can now having connected directly to the 3D. So from the phase of 3D, where we have all the list of all the products that are into the buildings, due to some particular parameters and data that we add into the geometry, we can manage Also, when they will be installed, when they will arrive in the project. And so in that way, we have all the monitoring of the project itself, not only in terms of timeline, but also on an economical point of view, because so I can manage if I will have some peak of financial needs or not to manage the project. As an example, of course, that at the beginning we will have mostly concrete, steel, et cetera, to generate all the structural part. But imagine when we are starting to talk about internal design. So we need to understand that it will come tiles, it will come furnishing, it will come lightings on the project. So it's really important that is also the costly part of the project itself. So we need to consider that in this case, I can plan accordingly. First of all, when I need to deliver it and when I need to have it on site. That is really important because it's not important to have it at the beginning of the construction phase, but probably at the end of it. So I can order accordingly the objects, the material when I need it. And in second phase, I can understand from a financial point of view when I will have some peak and when I will not. So I can plan accordingly all the money, let's say, workflow into my company to manage the installation and to manage the buying of that products. After that, we have the 5D cost analysis. So over there, what does it mean? It means to have a cost estimation of the building before building it, and in an easy way. So in that way, through the 5D dimension, connected to 3D and 4D, okay, because all of them are connecting one to the other one, we can easily connect our family, so our objects and our building, to a cost control. That is extremely important, if you think, because imagine that through that one, we will see also later in a real project, we can always understand if, for example, in a hotel, the suites are more costly compared to standard rooms, and why they are costly. So why we have this amount that is much more compared to another one, or why it's related to that one. Okay, that is really important from our point of view, and also for the developer point of view. If you can consider that due to that one, I can do analysis on a different matters, and I can really make a rapid calculation on the cost and in each part of the building, what is the most costly part of it, and if I can control it and evaluate it, new quantities or new developments. And then we have the 6D. 6D, it's a different kind of phase. Due to the 6D, we can easily manage the maintenance of the building. So imagine that we have the main building that has a proper geometry as the cost on it. And then once that I finish to build it up, I use the same digital model to manage also the maintenance of the building. That is the most important thing, because imagine all the cost, creating it in BIM means that there is also an increase of the cost of the developments in terms of as you can say, designing and decision into it. So once that we complete the construction of the building, it's important to enter into the BIM facility. So in the facility management of the building, because we have already a digital model of the building itself, and I need to connect it for the maintenance, because I will perfectly know in every single product, in every single area, the products that are installed, the manufacturers, the article code, the technical data sheet. So I always know what are the best products, what are the products into my buildings, and for the maintenance, how to manage it. That it's really important, because we will centralize in that way the data and the life cycle of the asset. That it's really, really important for that. After that, it's easily also to make the maintenance, because it's a 3D model with all the information into it. So you need to imagine that we have some platforms. One, it's also ours as a BIM facility, where we can manage just selecting the product. And so I can see the product into my room, I just select it and say, okay, activate a maintenance on it. So it's really easy and really simple, but from the other hand, I will use the main data that are coming from all the other dimensions in the BIM. So that's why it's really important, and that's why it's always more and more common to talk to. Related to a digital model, right now we are always in maintenance, so we are always discussing more and more about a digital twin. The digital twin is a digital model of the building that comes from BIM, where I can connect the IoT. That is an important part of it because, especially for the lighting fixtures, if I can connect the BIM model related to the details, that it's fundamental to approach it in the proper way and give a feedback on it and give a continuously upgrade on it. So it's not only a standard 3D model, but it's also something that will help us to manage the building through the IoT and to convert my digital model to a digital twin. And that is something related to the 6D dimensions. Regarding the IoT, for example, for our software, we can manage any different kind of connection from bus bar, Modbus, Kappa NX, whatever it is. It's just important to know it so we can connect it and we can use it. After that, we have the 7D. So the dimension 7, that is really important because with that one, we can manage the sustainability of the buildings. So you see that everyone is connected one to the other one because in 6D, I have the digital twin. In 7D, I have the sustainability. So connected to the 6D, if I have the IoT connected, I can manage, of course, the consumption, energy consumption, water consumption, etc., such as also the economic impact. Or I can manage before using the information of the products that they are installed. Like, for example, if it's a lamp is done in LED or in standard illuminations or all this kind of information, I can bring it from BIM and I can understand the steps and the method, let's say, to see if my building is green buildings approved or if LEEDs approved, or which kind of LEEDs points, how many LEEDs points I can have it. Okay, because as you can imagine, even that part is always more and more and more important from us as also from our customers itself. So that is really important. Also the possibility to connect it and all those information are into, they starts to be into from the 3D dimensions up to the 7D dimension because we bring data from 3D dimensions and we move it to sustainability. So that's why I'm saying that every dimension are connected one to the other one because one to the other is helping each other to reach the target. And you can imagine the value of a building that is green building gold in Milan, compare a new green building gold in Milan, compare, for example, to a standard building. The cost per square meter is much more higher because it's green building, it's green, so it's even better, etc. And this one will come as a support also with the BIM. And as I was saying, there are different kind of other dimensions orientated to mostly security, safety, and security on site. So the goal of the 8D dimension is to have to manage the security information, so the safety information in the building. For example, we generate some real-time scenario for our customer to manage the logistic into the site, especially orientated to small buildings and construction sites. You can imagine to make a renovation or a strip out in Rome or in London or in cities like, or in Paris, in cities like that one where there are historical points and where there are no spaces, where there is a lot of traffic and so on. With the 8D dimension, we can manage it. We can understand how to adjust it and how to move and which way we can easily manage all the steps of the refurbishing of the buildings. Then we go into the 9D, that is the lean construction. With the lean construction, we consider the waste that we can have on construction site, because you can imagine how much waste we can have during the construction of a building. So due to the lean construction, we can try to reduce and optimize absolutely the wasting that we generate during the construction site itself. So that is really important. It's something that also this one is starting to be approached by the big buildings so that they would like to understand more about the optimization and to see how they can optimize the waste and what is the waste that they generate into the building itself. So to reduce as much as possible the plastics, to use much more the cardboard compared to other materials. So that process is related to the 9D. And then we have the 10D. That is the industrialization of the constructions. What does it mean? It means that in the future, we would like to have a great connection, let's say, between the manufacturing process up to the construction process. So to have a process automation in that way that will connect the buildings to the products directly and everything managed under the advantages of BIM. We know that it will be not easy in this moment, so it's not something that we are looking into it right now, but it's the future. It will be where the building will go and where the manufacturer need to follow it to have a centralized and construction way between manufacturers and buildings. Is there any questions right now up to here, or we can proceed? If there are, just typing it and let me know into it so we can follow it and see any request on it.
I don't see questions in the chat, so I think that we can continue.
Absolutely. So let's start about after all the discussion about the thing that we see right now. So why BIM is important, when we need to use BIM, what are the dimensions of BIM? I prefer to get focus on directly the BIM files dedicated to our construction site. It's important that we need to understand that every country has its own rules, okay, in terms of BIM management. For example, we are supporting as a scheme BIM some sites in France, some projects in Greece, some project in Australia, some project in US, and everywhere they have their own national approvals and then internal regulation to follow, but they are almost similar between them. Okay, so for the BIM files in terms of objects are pretty clear and simple the way to manage it. As I was explaining before, the BIM files, it's a 3D model where information injected in it. Okay, so we don't need to think about the BIM file, BIM families, or BIM objects as a simple 3D as we have in the production of our internal R&D or so on, but it's related to really a particular parametric file where 3D is important, but mostly the informations are important. So we will see later how it will look like, but that it's really important to be focused on. The BIM file can be, of course, static, so just a simple geometry that will manage it, or it can be also parametric. Parametric is the most important part of it because it's what is helping to make a simple file and most useful file into the to use it into the construction site itself. As I was explaining before, we have different kind of two ways, let's say. So we have the BIM objects and the BIM family. The BIM objects is the component that belongs to a parametric BIM family, and the BIM family is one single file with the BIM objects into it. Okay, so that it's important because most of the time it's happening that we discuss about BIM objects or BIM families, but it's important to understand because when we think about 3D, mostly we have one 3D for one article code. For the BIM families, it's different because we can have one BIM family with a multiple article code into it. Okay, that is the main difference between the BIM families and the standard 3D object. What we need to
so Roberto, it's not the same that for the companies that consider one item and the family of the items, it's not the
exactly.
same.
Exactly. Most of the time, that is always the main request that we have. So for me, when we discuss with the manufacturer, they say, I cannot do BIM because it's scaring me because I have 100,000 article codes. Okay. But in our way, it's different because maybe 100,000 article codes are, just an example, 100 BIM families and not 100,000 BIM families. Okay. Because we can manage and we can group the article codes into a BIM family. Okay, so it's a totally different approach compared to the standard ones that you have in the company, generally speaking. And what are the details that we need to consider when we generate a BIM family? First of all, the geometric shape. We will see later how the geometric shape will be important into the file. Then, of course, the information content. So there are some details that need to be fulfilled into the BIM file that makes the family important and useful. Then, if the products and some particular kind of, as I can say, some important points that I need to show into my file, and then which kind of parameterization we want to give it to the file. Let's start from geometric shape. Most of the time, especially in the past, we were always thinking that the geometric shape is extremely important in the BIM. But that was the past. Now, the present and the future is that the geometry is fine, but we always need to pay attention to the detail of this geometry, because for us, it's not important to have a very detailed geometry, but mostly it's important to have the proper geometry into the BIM file. So what is the difference is that here, for example, you can see a valve, just for example, it can be a lighting later, you will see, or a furnishing that I can see the geometry. This is even too much detail, but some components will be removed from that. For example, we cannot see the thread, we cannot see the cables, we cannot see those components to reduce the size of it because it's not important for the BIM. The BIM geometry, it's a combination of geometry and informations. Even that one for us can be fine. Absolutely. You see that is the same component as before, but these are just only the external area that we needed, the maintenance of area that we needed to keep, the spaces that we need to have it around. You will see also from this component that is a lighting devices, you will see from here that, for example, if I have a low detail display and high detail display that Revit can manage or a software BIM can manage, it's perfectly done because in this way I can manage it easily, the low details, to have a file that is not so high, not so high in megabyte of using it. But for example, when I increase the details, here, for example, I need just only to understand the size and also the fixing, because for this lamp, it's important to understand the fixing of it. You will see also a yellow ball here on the top of it, but I will discuss it on it later on. But that is
Roberto,
important.
that means that's also for companies that produce decorative lighting, that's the
Yes.
most part of our cluster. It could be interesting because you have the shape of the lamp.
Exactly. So we generate the shape of the lamps. We make it, let's say, a little bit simple compared to the proper shape. Why? Because so in this way, it's also a way to save some, industrial secrets and so on. So if the shape is not exactly the same one and so on, for the BIM, it's exactly perfect. So we don't need a perfect shape. I will show you later some families also on that where we design the shape, but it's not exactly the same, just because in this way we save the industrial point of view of developments, such as the internal components, we will not design it. So we will not design any kind of, I don't know, electronical components or whatever, because for the BIM, it's not important. We took that data, but as an information, not as a design thing. But also for decorative, it's important, absolutely. It's important because we will see later the importance to be in the BIM methodology for the company, because it's helping me to enter in the project, be in the specifications, and continue to be in the project for the maintenance of it. That if you consider the maintenance is the longest part dedicated to the building, because we are always focused to be into the project at the beginning because it's important. but over there it's one lamp or one component, let's say, that is used. But then imagine for the next 30 years that everything is running around BIM, that they are using our models or your models into the BIM for construction. In the maintenance, they will need to continuously using your files or your products, because your products is into the building. Okay, until there will be, for example, a different strip out, or they change it, a renovation or whatever. And so due to that one, of course, that they will change the BIM file, and then they can have multiple choices. But that is the important part of the BIM, to be there, not only for the specification, but also for the maintenance of the building connected to the BIM. Then, of course, we have the internal content. So what are the informations? What are the data that we need to insert into the file? First of all, we need to consider that we have to give the proper dimensions. We need to give also other data, because as you see, the use of BIM, it's not related only to 3D, but mostly also for 4D dimension, 5D dimensions, and so on. So what it can be, first of all, technical product data. We will see later in details the informations and the data that we need to fulfill. But you need to imagine that they are the data of a simple technical data sheet, such as, for example, descriptions and specifications. Because due to that one, the developer can understand if the product is the proper one or not, if there are any data connected, and then export all the specification for the full buildings to make then the quotations and the tender. Okay, so to generating the bill of material and the bill of queue to generate all that part. After that, we also need to consider to have, for example, for the 4D dimension, other kind of data, like, for example, the article code, like, for example, the finishing, or also the data sheets. Okay, as you can see here, for example, we have the order code, we have the short description, we have the manufacturer. Those are parameters dedicated to the 4D. Okay, such as also data for the 5D dimensions. Here, as you can see in this area, it's a computo. That means that it's a bill of material where we can extract from the project how many lightings they are of that models, in which area, which sizes, connected to what. Okay, so due to that one, the developer can extract the bill of material, and then they can manage through the cost, make the tender, and let them understand to their supplier what is the needs of the projects. That is very, very important if you consider it, because that will help us to understand also the cost of the building before to build it in the proper way. Consider that if we talk about materials for lightings, it's pretty simple. For furnishing, it's pretty simple, because we know that we will have 10 tables, 40 chairs, etc., because it's easy to manage the counting. But through the BIM, we can also counting the quantity of tiles glue that I need to use in the entire buildings, or the quantity of concrete that I will have in the buildings before to build it, and with the precisions that it goes up to 2 to 3% of difference between to the real ones. So that means that I can have a bill of material and the cost of it extremely well done in every material that I have into my buildings. That is the most important part of it, because it helps the developers, the project developers, to be always focused in the real cost of the buildings. As I was explaining you, there are also different things that we need to think when we develop a family. For example, the maintenance point of view. So what are the details that my product is important that we'll share with the developers, with the architects, with the interior design? Here, for example, you can see from a valve, okay, that is the actuation of it. So if I need to open and close the valve, how I can manage it, how I can use it. And here you see that there is this red component over here that is indicating that if I want to open and close, this is the minimum space that I needed. The same will be, for example, for the lighting or for the furnishing. When we develop, for example, the armchair, we indicate the opening of it. Why? Because in that way, they know that they cannot position anything in front of it, or they need at least, I don't know, 65 centimeter of space to position, to have it in front of it, because in that way I can open the doors. Those small things are important to be developed into the files, because in that way we give a really support to the project and to the developer. Consider that in a building here in Italy, that it's a shopping mall with a hotel and so on, we did the car parkings. And what it was happening through the BIM, that they developed the car parking from CAD, so standard 2D connection, but all the rest of the buildings and the developments was done in BIM. So discussing with the owner of this area, we say, look, why we don't implement the car park in the BIM, just to be sure that whatever you draw in CAD will match to the real situation of the building. So due to that one, we design families. So of the car park for the car, for the wheelchairs, people, for bikes, for electric cars, etc., and we position it as per CAD, and we give a proper size in terms of width, depth, and also height of the buildings, because you can imagine that in the same building, we will have architectonics, but also structural and also the piping. So at the end, we see that in a 3,000 car park, almost 20% will get lost due to the pipes, due to the new constructions, and due to the new modification that comes during the process. So due to that one, we redesign completely the car park, because you can imagine that in a shopping center, having the 20% less car park means that they are 20% less let's say, final user that will buy the products, okay, into every single shop. And 20% on 3,000 spaces means that they are 600 spaces. By 4, they are 2,400 people less, potentially less, that can be in the shopping mall at every time, on every minute, let's say. So that is the important thing. So that's why it's important also to understand your product and see what can be the advantages that I can give to the developers, to the architects, to help them to develop it in the proper way. Okay, so that one is really, really important. Such as we have also the internal parameters. Why? Here, I just choose a valve, and later we will see also for the lightings and so on. But because the valve, for me, it's giving you the idea, because a valve comes from a small diameter up to the big one. Okay, you see that internally the fixing, they are also here due to the different kind of sizes. Okay, and this one is just only one single file with all these types into it, because depending from the diameter of connection, I can have multiple sizes, but it's always one file. So even that one is important to understand with you when you will start to develop a BIM families and you want to approach this market, which are the sizes, which are the details or article code related to that project. So in that way, we can easily understand how to manage it and how to prepare a proper BIM file related to your products, because every product has its own way to develop a BIM file. There is not a simple way that everything will match and everything will do the same, because we need to understand how to give feedbacks and how to give proper information to it. Into every family, we have different kind of parameters. They can be internal, so dedicated only to that family, or can be shared parameters. With the shared parameters, those are objects that can help us to put, for example, all the data that we want into the schedules to have the bill of material and the bill of quantity. So even that part is really important, because due to that one, we can easily manage every request that will come from the manufacturers, such as also give more feedbacks to the users itself, because that is really, really, really important. As usual, let's say there are advantages or disadvantages in one way to the other one, but that is part of our job. So we will support you indicating which kind of parameters we will use into your family compared to another one. We have seen, sorry, before that when we talk about geometry, we introduce a concept that is the LOD. The LOD is a particular concept that it's normally requested from the developers that say that the LOD of my building must be LOD 300 or LOD HGF, depending from the national approvals. But what does it mean? LOD is the level of development. LOD comes from the gaming. Okay, so in the 80s, even for maybe the 70s, if you imagine the games into the gaming rooms or gaming machines where, you know, the old one like Pac-Man, like Super Mario or something like that one, they use the LOD to have a proper point of view from a geometric view. So the geometry of the view of Mario that is jumping and breaking bricks, okay, with the machines and with the size of the machine that will manage it, because the hardware of that machine was not so strong. So they need to work on pixels to manage the geometry, to have a proper machine that will manage a proper geometry and that for the user will looks good enough. Okay, so if you think at the beginning, the games was in the game station rooms and so on, they were, for example, the screens, they were not flat, but they were orientated. There is another screen in front of it, just only because that one will help us, our eyes, to be more focused and to have a proper point. So that is the LOD. Of course, that in terms of gaming, it's mostly a geometry. And that's why in the past we talk about geometry and load requested, if you remember a few, let's say PowerPoint before. But in the BIM, the LOD is managed by the log, the LOI, and the lock. The log is the level of geometry. So the design of the deeper geometry that we need to achieve for our project or for our product. So I need it as here you can see a stratigraphy of the wall. I need to show all the small things and so on. Then we have the LOI. LOI is the level of information. So over there are the information that I need to fulfill in my project. And then we in my product, sorry. And then we have the lock, LOC. LOC is the level of information for the clash or for the installations, let's say. You can see from here in the drawings that there is the red side around sign and the red area around that is helping to let you understand that here we need to pay attention that around that round area, we don't need it, any details. All three together will generate the LOD, so the level of development that is requested for the project. Here we can see a sample. I prefer to use a door in this way because it's easily to understand that it's not mostly the geometry that makes the difference, but it's more the informations. On the top, you can see lot A, B, C, D, E, that is related to the Italian regulations. In UK, for example, US, they are talking not in lot A, B, C, but in lot 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Okay, so 500 is lot G from the Italian point of view. In Europe, it's lot 500. So how does it work? So on the upper part, we will have the geometry part, so the log, and in the below part is the LOI. Okay. Regarding the lock, so the clash, here for the door, it's pretty simple because it's just the opening of it. So it's not into the model because it will never change from load A to load G. So let's start from the first load. Load A, that is the lowest. Here you see that It's just a simple 2D dimension that is indicating the door. And then we have some data that are just related that explain that this is a door with these dimensions. That's it. After that, we have the LODB that is like 150, okay, where we start to have a geometry, but it's a generic geometry. You see that the door that you can see here, it's a 3D, but still is not the handle, for example. In terms of data, we will have one more data compared to before that. It's telling me that it's a door that is 80 by 200, 210. It's a porta interna, so it's an internal door. And it's a one door, one simple door, full stop. Then we have a lot C. In US will be a lot 200. Here we will see that we will have a little bit more of details in terms of geometry, because we will have the handle. So the handle will come. So the geometry will be a little bit more defined compared to before. But then in the term of LOI, we have more information, such as the height, the depth, and the width of the door. So we have more details related to that one because we know that that door has this kind of characteristics. Then we have the LOD, okay, so that it's it's approximately 250 in US. So here you will see that the geometry is still the same, but we give the color, so we give the materials of it, such as we implement some more parameters. Why? Because we know that it's a door with one single swing, with that sizes, with that materials of that manufacturers, because it's detailed geometry and information. So as you can see here, we will see that is the manufacturer is this, the model is that one, the door is that one. Theoretically, here we implement also the cost, but when we talk about cost, considering also the actual scenario that we are having, that the raw material are continuously changing and so on, we always suggest to avoid to put the cost into the BIM files, because otherwise it's difficult to manage it from your side for the future. So it's due to maintenance and so on. Then LODE, it's more specific, so means that it's more orientated to that product in particular. So compared to the lot D, here we are in 300. And over here, there are some other parameters, like when probably the door will come in the on-site. So the data is related to 4D, for example. Okay. Lot F is related to what I have installed. Lot G is the maintenance one, the updated version. But you see that from lot D and lot G, so from lot 3, let's say 250 up to lot 500, the geometry is always the same. We don't take care if here there is one rubber, two rubbers, three rubbers, two doors, three doors, or sorry, two fittings, three fittings, or whatever. The geometry is always the same one. We manage the data. Okay. Why? Because we need to have always families that are really light. Because imagine that a door in a project, we can have maybe 100,000, or like the LED lights or the strip lights or designing lights, we can have 100 lights. So if the BIM file, so the BIM family is heavy, for example, 2, 3, 5, 10 megabytes, multiplied by 100 times, the file becomes really heavy. So due to that one, we need to manage mostly at the best way the geometry. And then we can implement the information to fulfill the data and to be ready and to give a proper file to our manufacturers and to our developers. And in details for lighting and furnishing objects, how does it work? At the end, we always need to consider that we need to give the information to architects, engineers, and interior design. So due to that one, we need to, as for the step that we see before, we need to give the information of it in the proper way. So we always need to remember why BIM it's used and what is the goal that we need to achieve. That is really important, independently from the software, independently to everyone. But what is the main goal? So due to that one, I can say that we need to include specifications, accessories, and finishes. These are the three main data that we need to fulfill into the BIM file dedicated to lightings and furnishing sectors. If we talk about specifications, what kind of data we need to implement? First of all, descriptions, product codes, URLs that can help the final user of BIM to implement it and get the data out from the BIM file. So, for example, long descriptions, proper specifications, detailed specifications, product codes, product finishings, different materials, all that kind of parts. It's really important for us into the BIM way. Regarding the accessories, also over here, it's another question that they mostly tell us that how the accessories can be managed into a file. What we normally suggest is it's to understand with you if this accessory it's something fundamental on a point of view that it's visible or not for the installations or for be used into the model. For example, the fixing, we see before that for the lamps, we show where the fixing are, because then it's important to see to fix it on the floor or sorry, on the ceilings, if I can fix it or not, if I need to drill it or not, you know, those kind of things are important. But for example, the drivers are not important from a geometry point of view, but it's important on an information point of view. So due to that one, those kind of information, we will go through a different impact because we will use the information to use it. So the geometry will be not visible, but the information, yes. I will show you later one file from one of the company in Luce in Veneto, where we start to developing the BIM file. And in that one, we will see that we manage the driver in that way. Because for the user, it's important to know that they need to select the lamp, they need to select the driver, they need to order the code of the lamp and the code of the driver. But if the driver is not visible, it's not a big issue. And then the finishes. It's absolutely important to have the finishes because the finishes are connected to the article code. So due to that one, in software like in Revit that we mostly use, or even in other software, there is a possibility to implement also the finishes and then to have also that part connected. So that is really important because the finishings can give us the article code of the file that we needed to work with. Okay, so let's see some practical cases. So it will help us to understand more in details regarding the BIM and how the BIM can be helpful for you and especially for your customers. So let me change the screen. I need to share the full screen because otherwise it's not working proper. So let me know if you can see. Antonella, you can see the full screen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, very good. So let's start from this. This is a hotel. It's one of the projects, for example, that we are managing from our side in Skeinholding. And over here, you see that this is a Hard Rock Cafe hotel. And over here, there are all the furnishing, positioning, and so on. Every component has its own characteristics. So as you can see here, we can select different kind of models. You see that I can change it and I can update it. And if I select it, I can have also the information of it. So I can easily see from this, for example, the type of information. Those, as you can see, that the data related, there are some codes, that those are codes that they are adding the interior design to make the counting on the final ends, okay? Such as the information, for example, of who is the manufacturer, what is the size of it, and so on. If we see, we can easily check it. through a 3D, because the BIM is also useful for this. So as you can see here, I can perfectly see and match to understand what it will be the final result of my product. I can make renders into the BIM. Of course, that is not perfect renders like in 3D Studio Max or connection like that one. But the nicest part is that I can use BIM file to then use it and connect it through Blender to 3D Studio Max or other software to make those kind of cooperations and collaborations. From the BIM, then we can have, of course, the plan view. So the different kind of plan view, and of course that from that one I can have the possibility to export the materials and have all the proper materials related to. Here, for example, let me increase this area so you can easily see it. You see that all the components will come and will be totally fulfilled into it. So those is just only the interior design. So from here you can see all the interior design and the component that is part of it. Into this area of the file, yeah, you will see that there are these red crosses. What does it mean? It means that with that one, we can connect also all the other models like plumbing, like heating, like structural, like architectonics, and so on, to fulfill it and to be sure that my components will not clash against the other components. Okay, that is the most important part of it, that it's really useful for us, because in this way we can easily understand how it will be and how to manage it. Here we manage the lightings, so lighting devices. As you can see here, different kind of lighting devices connected to that one. I have also over here the different kind of parameter connected to that one, and all those kind of parameters are important for us to make the connections and to make the details. You can imagine that this hotel will come from this stage to a development. So we will build it up. Once that it's built, it goes to maintenance. Once that it goes to maintenance, whatever are the final products that will be in the project are being used for the maintenance scope. So it will be always focused into it and always related to that project itself. Okay, so this is just an example of it. Let's have an example of a different kind of project, for example. This one, it's another project. It's a tower. So it's related to a tower on a project. Here it is. And so this is the architectonic point of view. So due to that one, you can see that there is the walls, floors, every kind of material is into it. There are some holes. Why? Because as you can see here, it's empty, the area. Why? Because where the area is empty, it's where the structural file is connected. So once that I connect the structural file to coordinate together the file, okay, here I will see that inside I have the beams and outside I have my walls. Connected to that one, for example, even if it's an architectonic, but I'd like to show you because so you can see in details what does it means. You see that we have the stratigraphy of it with the thickness of that. So for the user, they can select it and they can easily manage accordingly to the thickness that there is on the project, or also the kind of tiles that there is on the project. So you see that there are different kind of naming and different kind of parameters that help us to understand the structure of it, the stratigraphy of it, and to easily manage, as you can see, also the quantity takeoff. Here, for example, it's all the work that you can see that there is behind it. But here I can select it, for example, roof. For the roof, I have the kind of the bill of quantity of the roof. The same is for the door. Okay, so you see that for every door, I can see the kind of door that I need to use it, the type of it, related to which apartment, okay, to which description of that apartment, if it's a lift, if it's not, in which level it is, okay. And it's organized step by step on that way to give us a full list, and from that, the full quantity of that door, or material list for the ceilings, or for the walls, or related to the levels. Okay, so the elevations between one level to the other one. So those are the information that we can have into Revit to manage it in the proper way. Okay, those are some of the details that we fulfill in that way, such as also this part over here. It's related to every different kind of combinations and so on, but let me clear a little bit the project so you will see how it will look like, one that we will make it clear. So just remove the card, okay, because otherwise it's difficult maybe for you to understand in details. Okay, just give it a second so the file will be organized itself. Still, let's remove the levels. Share. Here it is. And then now you will see that this one, for example, it's all the internal part of the hotel that we see before in our buildings. Okay, so that is the connection that we can have between Revit and between the different areas. Such as here, you see that we have not only the CAD internally and so on, but also the components connected. So the doors, the railings, okay, all that kind of components are fulfilling into the project. The external shape, the structure, so everything will be related to that side. The same side, the same concept we can have also here. Here it is. So this one is a school. Okay, this is related to the MEP. So as you can see, we can have the quadro electrico, so where all the things are comes. We can have the switches. We can have also the lighting devices. Okay, so also over here, if I need to change the lighting device with something else, I can easily change it and adjust it. Okay, so let's see, for example, you see now I have a different lighting in that situation connected to particular data, because you see that I will have, for example, the voltage consumption, the lighting devices, all the data connected to that side. Okay, and also over here, I can have structural files, such as architectonic files, to work together. Okay, so you see that it will comes, then you can reload it. And those, as you will see, they are files that I cannot modify because I'm working on lighting or I'm working on piping, but I can see and I can work accordingly. So that is the most advantage of the BIM, the cooperation between the actors. You see, now everything comes. I can easily generate, for example, here a section box. With the section box, I can go cut the buildings. No, it's too much. Okay, so I can manage it in the proper way to see if I want to have a look on a particular part of it. So let's see together now. You see that I can cut it, and I will host, and I will have hosted my components, okay, directly on the walls, even if I cannot touch the wall, but I know that the walls will be there. So due to that one, I can add it. And due to this, then when I have the schedules, with the schedules, I can export the schedules. Let's see. some of them, if they are already ready or not, but anyway, exactly. So you see that, let me open the full schedules, that is this one. And in that one, I will see the family and the types. Okay, so for example, here is LED lightings, sensors, here the lamps, blah, blah, blah. And then also we can implement all the part of products and manufacturer related to that one. So that is the real advantage of BIM, and see how it will looks like, and what is the main advantages that we are having in terms of manufacturer point of view, and why it's important to manage BIM in this way. Okay, because imagine that I'm giving to a user a BIM file that is not helpful. So means that there are no datas, there are no any kind of details connected to it, there are no parameters. So means that then I'm giving, here it is, means that then I'm giving a file that is not helpful, and so the customer probably will never use anymore my file. So that's why it's important to have always a proper file with a proper information into it to help them to generate all the data. The same, it's also, if we see, for example, the floor plans. Okay. So if you see on the floor plans, okay, even if it's a 3D file, we always have also the possibility to implement the view and the schematic data. For example, this one, for example, the lighting devices, the buttons. If there is, for example, these are the exit. Okay, so in BIM through Revit here, for example, or so on, I can also export all the plan view. I can also export all the details and data related to that one as well. So that's why it's important always to combine the different point of view. So not only the 3D, but also the 2D view, because in that way, it's important to see it and to help to print out all the data. And these are not data related to 2D. It's still a 3D that I can adjust it, I can move it, and if I see it, I can show it to you in 3D. Sorry, but sometimes it's taking time, because consider that this file, even if it's a small one, it's almost 400 megabyte. So it's pretty heavy. So just give a second. Okay. If I see in the 3D, then you see that that is the object. So everything is connected and related to that one. But if it's well done, I can easily manage the 2D view with the 3D view in the same file. And that is the point that we need to give to the customer to give a proper file and a proper selections. To see in details how to develop a family, we can have a look to, for example, this one. This one is related to a family on one of the companies in Lucin Veneto. Over here, it's a lamp. So let me show it to you in 3D so you can easily see. Okay, that is like that one. You see that the geometry is clear, but on the same time, there is no cable, there is not any other details that are not fundamental of it. Okay, there is, of course, the corner and so on, but then all the other details are not designed, just only because it's not important for this product. You see that internally we have multiple types. Okay, so every type has its own selections. There are all the informations like dimensions, the hole that you needed, nominal flow, real flow. So all the data related to that one, such as also, for example, the information on the accessories. You see that if I select the proper accessories, nothing will change in the 3D, but it will change in terms of data. So for example, I select a switch, I have this kind of code. check 00577. If I select DALI, the code it will be check 00517, and the accessory description will also change. Okay, because in the BIM families, we can manage also formula to give the proper data depending from the selections. After that, there are URL. So if I click on it, I will go directly on the URL in the website of the customer, because so in that way, we will manage the part of datas. We will have the model, we will have the manufacturer, we will have the assembly code, and we will have also one important file that is the IAS. As you can see, this is directly the IAS file, the light source connected. In our cases, Revit will manage also the IAS, not to make the work of Dialux that will manage exactly the lightings, but if we use Revit and we connect it to Revit itself, to a software that is making rendering and so on, it's giving you the data and the details connected to that site. Let's see another one for the furnishing, for example. So this is a bench. And how it works here. Also over here, we have different kind of the datas. There is only one type, or we can manage it as we wish. But the most important thing is the managing of the materials. So you see here that we have, for example, for this company, the material library, and into we have all the different kind of materials that that component has. All of them has its own characteristics, its own appearance, thermal, physical, graphical appearance, and so on, and then can be managed easily, and the user can select it. Once that we are close to this point, we need to understand if these are all available for all the bench here. So we import all of them and we use it, or only some of them. But we will manage according to your needs and according to your request. Okay. So that is something that we will manage together and we will discuss together. You see that this is the bench is pretty simple to manage and it's pretty easy. But from the other hand, we don't design it in this case too much in details because it's not so important. As we see in the hotels, it's important because we need to show it, but not such as in details. Other family itself, it's for example an electrical switches. Over here, it's dedicated to IoT as well. That is a component from another of our customers, and how it looks like. Here we have this connector that is where we will fulfill all the data, one that we will complete the family. There are we can position, sorry, the logo and so on, such as we have multiple data. And you see that when I select the different type, that here the difference is related mostly of the color. You see that now it's gray. Now I think that it will become dark, exactly. So due to that one, we will change the color, we will change the material, and we will change also the data connected to it. Even over here, we have the model, we have the description, we have a long description, we have some 18 code, because also the 18 can be implemented on it. Some other technical characteristics, but over here, it's important to see that, yes, it's designing details, because here was a request from the customer that they need to see where the fixing are, because they need to understand from the wall and so on. But then that is the only details that we have related to that part. Then all the other shapes you see that are more easy and simple to design it. Okay. So this was just to let you understand more in the details regarding the BIM and regarding the needs that we need to share it. As we see already, for the furnishings, the parameters are materials and so on. For the electrical components, we need to implement the electrical connectors, so take in consideration that one, and the photometric curves. Electrical connectors, it's what we've seen in ABB, for example, where we need to give a proper value to the electrical connectors. And in photometric curves, It's where we need to give the proper information so we can read IAS format, link it to the family, and in automatic Revit will generate the shape, the proper shape of the IAS file also in Revit. So that one will help to go through the proper design, not only in Revit, but also in rendering software, such as also other kind of software that can read the IFC format. IFC format, it's a particular format and let's say, yes, not software, but it's a particular format that is really helpful in the BIM. Why? Because in BIM we have multiple kind of softwares, different one to the other one, and every software has its own proper file. To avoid to use just only one software or to skip to have like as you can say that only one software house have has its own software, we have an IFC that is a file like a PDF. So for just to make an example, I will use a Word file from Office. I will use a open office file. I can use whatever. Then I export in IFC or I export in PDF, and then I can read it everywhere and I can use it everywhere. The same is related to this one, to the IFC. So it's helping us to share the 3D model and the information related to that one to any kind of software BIM related to the market. So just to resume with the last slide, is BIM important? From my point of view, it's absolutely important because it's a fully change in the building industries. So if in the past no one's is taking care about the building industries because it's related to CAD, now with the BIM, the process is totally different, the requests are totally different, and if I want to be focused on building design and support the building designers like architects, interior design, engineers to use my products, I need to be BIM focused. So absolutely for the future, it will be more and more important. It's already important right now. In some countries, BIM, it will becomes as you can say, a set for the future of the company, and it's really important. It's really fundamental. Most of the time, it's not only the publics that are using it, but especially the private companies that are using it, because as you can see, we can have multiple advantages dedicated. From my point of view, I try to give as much as possible the informations related to BIM and why to approach BIM and how to approach BIM in our sectors, so in lighting and furnishing. I don't know, Antonella, if we want to wait a little bit to see if there are any kind of questions or indications that all of you can have or want to ask me. So let me see if something will come. Okay, so seems that
okay, Roberto is Roberto speaking. In the dark, you bring the light because I had just some little problem with the camera.
Okay,
and,
no worries.
Okay, I thank you for your presentation and for go deeper in the BIM world in supporting the for sure the company lighting and furniture world. My question is how deep in how fast do you think we are going to integrate completely furniture lighting components in the BIM process? Because for sure now you have more and more all the aspect related to I don't know, electrical plan and hydraulic and for sure more and more concrete structure and so on. Then finally you are going to have lighting at the end for sure furniture. We have some mandatory rules in European in different countries in Europe about that, but your feeling about how fast project leader and BIM integrator are going to ask mandatory or for create a good project to lighting and furniture manufacture the availability of this kind of file for the project. Thank you.
Let's say, Alberto, that mostly, if you think the last 2 years of the projects that we receive from our customer and that we help them to develop with our teams are related also to furnishing and lighting. Why? Because the first step was, of course, implementing, as you say, the HVAC or the MEP, like plumbing and so on, electrical and so on. But now that the big developers starting to see the potentiality of BIM since the last 3 or 4 years, now they are asking also to have it for furnishing and also lightings, because in that way, it's easy to manage everything under that. So it's everything under control with the BIM process. After that, it's always to be more and more requested because of the maintenance of it. So the BIM facility. BIM facility, since last year, it's something that they are asking much more the developers. Why? Because they are having already a file in BIM that it's fulfilled like the what they build it up. Okay, so they have the digital model. With that digital model, just only with few more implementation, they can have a digital twin dedicated to facility. And to do it, they need to position also lightings, they need to position the furnishings, and they need to be the lighting and the furnishings that they have been installed. So due to that one, they need support from the manufacturer's point of view. Okay, so that's why I think that the 2024 is the year where lighting and furnishing needs to check and be ready and start to be ready. Let's say not be ready, but start to be ready for BIM, because the request will come, because BIM is growing extremely fast. Up to 3-4 years ago, it was just a matter of architectonic and structural to see if there are any clashes, and we were designing some piping in it. Now, it's more and more deeper, that kind of point. So it's really the 2024 is really important and fundamental on it to have it in the future of the project itself. That it's really important. And I think that 2024 will be really the first year where there will arrive important requests on it. I'm thinking the project that we are running. So we are running hotels in, as you see, and that they are like hotel, shopping mall, towers of apartments in Milan, in Greece, in Australia, and all of them are asking for lighting and furnishing. Of course, that who will come first will be advantage of that scenario, but they are already asking for that, not only in Italy, but also worldwide on it. So that it's really important from my point of view, Alberto, that this year will be the focus one for our sector. Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you for your answer. So we are in the right year, 2024, to push on that. So we have Catherine from GLB cluster asking how to convince lighting companies to make data available. Okay,
sure.
So you
so
know
Catherine,
this word, so please.
Absolutely. So Catherine, at the end, as you see, the data that we fulfill are data that they have already also in the technical data sheet normally. So we are not asking for many other data or particular data that they need to focus on. So due to that one, when we start to develop, for example, the BIM families, we always ask a step file and empty, because we need just only the shape and the technical data. So due to that one, that they are already in the data sheets. and the IAS, of course. So due to that one, they have already those data, and we just fulfill all the parameters and we share it. That those it's already enough to start to enter in that way, in the proper way in the BIM. So I hope that this, Catherine, will give you a reply to an answer to your questions. I mean that mostly all the data are already available because they are already sharing with their customers. So that's why.
Okay, I see an answer, Catherine again, reply about companies want to keep their data closed. I think we are entering an open dialogue about closed and open data available, I think for product project and so on. I don't know if you can comment, Roberto, about open and closed data and privacy rule related to the management in a safe way model, because in some time you give really total models of lighting fixtures, for example, complete all data. So if you reply on that.
Absolutely. That is our, let's say, Catherine, our experience, okay, as we develop almost, I think, for 100 different companies in the lighting devices. And we feel different approach on that. Let's say that if we talk about standard data, first of all, in BIM, we don't have data, a particular kind of data. As I say, the shape is not like the proper shape that they have in the design phase, so like internally. So we don't need to share, I don't know how it's internally, the thickness of the materials and so on, that maybe they are sensitive data. So that is something that we don't take care in the BIM. In the BIM, we take care most of generic data. And then from our point of view, for example, when we develop, the ownership of the data and of the products and of the BIM that we develop, it's for the manufacturer. It's of the manufacturer. I know that in the market there are other kind of approach, but it's not our approach. So our approach is that you give us the datas. Datas are not sensitive data, so they are open data that you can easily get access even if I browse into the website. Those datas are send it to us, we develop the BIM, and the ownership of the BIM file, it's from the manufacturer point of view. Into that one, we fulfill all the data that are related to the ownership, the parameters, and everything is owned by the customer in terms of the company point of view. So that is the point. Of course, that when we approach BIM, it's not a BIM philosophy start from a concept that BIM should be open. Okay, means that I can bring the data, I can modify the data, and I can publish it. From the other point of view, they are starting to be more focused on legal BIM. Legal BIM, it's a part extremely important where it born in the last year and a half, dedicated to save the data on the file. For example, when we develop the BIM file for our project, okay, and for our customers, what we did, we insert into development particular, let's say, areas, okay, that you cannot see, so it's hidden. And due to that one, if some of our customer has the perception that they found a file that's very similar to ours, they send it to us and we can encrypt the file and see if the file is the same one or not. Okay, so also from our point of view, we are trying to do something that will help the customers to say and to be sure that the data are, it's true that are open, but from the other point of view, are safety, or they can understand if someone use it or not. But as all the technologies is something that it's growing. But as I want to say, it's always some data that are already on the website of the customers, are already available everywhere. In terms of 3D, Catherine, we don't use any kind of particular geometry because we remove all of them unless it's the customer that asks us. So that is the concept. And yes, legal BIM is coming since the last year and a half, just to protect not only the file of the manufacturers, but mostly also the project files that you see before. Because as is a digital, they need to have someone that protect against the copy or whatever, also the full hotel, not only the lamps. Okay, so that's why the legal BIM comes more and more into the concept. Then I see that there is another question.
Yeah. I hope this was a good reply to Katrina. In case we can go deeper also next session, if there are some pending questions that you can answer maybe at the beginning of the next meeting webinar we plan for next week. I think we can continue with other question about are there any specific skills needed internally by the company staff to integrate the BIM? I say yes, but I let you, Roberto, to go deeper on this subject. If they need the engineers, PhD, or technical staff that can be trained maybe to use BIM technology.
Exactly. So mostly it's the training that is needed. In terms of manufacturer point of view, company staff is not requested to have internally a BIM specialist, BIM coordinator, or whatever, but it's important to have someone that can know how to open a BIM software and how to manage and how to develop the files. So the skills are not so much. I mean, that can be whatever. It's important that he has experience in the 3D modeling because that one can help. So normally it's a technical advisor, a technical manager, or technical director of the company, such as the R&D guys. And from that one, as a Skeinholding, we also do trainings to help them to be focused on what they need in terms of developing. So if, for example, it's for the furnishing, we will do a training dedicated to furnishing. And to software to use it for furnishing. If it's related to lighting, we will do lightings and so on. So depending from that one, we will adjust also the trainings that we normally do. But mostly it's not requested to have a particular skills, just mostly someone that is able to work on the 3D files or modeling in 3D, also in other softwares. It's already enough. And then we will give more support and with a specific training on the focus that you have.
Okay, so I think it's a time as a cluster to start to have some specific webinar or training courses for technical staff in the company to help them integrate. But maybe we can go back to this subject, Roberto, together, maybe with Skeinholding in general, how to training staff in companies.
Absolutely.
Okay, more and more questions coming. So is it possible to integrate lighting calculation scenarios into the BIM models? I think I know the answer, but let Roberto to go more technical on that as is a question we are discussing also in this day about the right use of photometric curves in product. But please, Roberto.
Absolutely. So let's say that in Revit, we can integrate the data as related to informations, so related to energy consumptions and so on, because every light will be connected in the BIM file to a switch. And from the switch, so we can create all the workflow and we can make calculation in terms of loads and so on. In terms of calculation of light things, we can implement the IAS file, but we cannot do a proper calculation directly into the BIM software, but we can prepare the BIM file ready for the calculations through the IFC. So to make the calculation, you need to use different other software that can be integrated directly to the BIM file, and that it's possible then to do it. I know that there are some of the markets. It's something also that we were discussed with Alberto in the last few days, because we see that there is a need also from that point of view. So it's a scenario that it's possible to have it on that matters. So you will not do directly into, but through the BIM models, you can generate it and you can prepare it to make the calculation in other software as well. Okay, so that absolutely.
And there's a complementary question about that. Is more technical about IS file versus LDT file that is more common in Europe. So what about the integration of the lighting format photometric curves in BIM object? If you have any specific answer about that from your experience.
Absolutely. So we know that LDT it's more common, but due that the technology comes from US, they mostly prefer IAS. So we can only connect IAS file to the Revit. The nice thing or otherwise we need to recreate it internally in the BIM file. So that is the two different kind of way. We cannot connect LDT, but just only IAS or recreate it directly from scratch. So with the data, and we can recreate it, but normally it's always better to connect it IAS. The nice thing is that we can connect multiple IAS into the same BIM file because they are connected then to the same object. Okay, so that one it's very simple and easy to manage. So it's not one IAS for one BIM family, but multiple IAS as per multiple BIM object into the BIM families. But IAS, it's something that we need to use it. Let's say unfortunately, because it should be better to have both the possibility.
Okay, there's no more open question now on the chat. I think people from following the webinar can also write the end in case asking directly to Roberto. But we are perfectly on time on our today webinar. So just waiting some second more for more question. And I just put on the table that is very important subject for lighting companies and furniture companies, and also the running SILEO voucher could be the right place to create its own BIM object for companies. And I think in future it's very important to go deeper in trainings on BIM technology. I'm talking in this case using my hat of Luce and Veneto. We already started on that, but more and more projects of buildings going in this direction. So also it's important for lighting and furniture companies to be on the field.
Absolutely.
Okay, another question for you from Stefano. I say hello to Stefano. That is very I think it's very technical question, so I let you to enter, and I know Stefano that's very proficient in this field, so in the lighting world. So questions related about your perception or what do you think about IFC files, because we know, and that is a key point on the BIM industry. And so you are in the field, you see many different format of files. So I think you can answer specifically about IFC files. Please, Roberto.
So let's say, Stefano, that it's a very interesting point. As a Skeinholding, we don't have a software house that we sell products. So for us, it's absolutely independent one to the other one. And we dream an open BIM approach. Open BIM means using just only IFC, and due to the IFC, giving the possibility to be free to model as we wish. Okay. Right now, let's say that the key player for the software is another company. Is the software, for example, that you see with me. that it's really costly, and if the people can change it to an open IFC, will be more than welcome from everyone. From the other hand, for the IFC, it's moving now, but from my point of view, it's still not so in deeper compared to a proper software. What does it mean? It means that with the proper software, we can have multiple scenario, multiple possibility, multiple developments that right now with the BIM, with the IFC, sorry, file, is still not that much that much focus. So the future will be IFC, absolutely, 100%. I hope so, to be honest. And we, as a Skeinholding, we are also working on that way to try to generate IFC and work IFC directly. From the other hand, unfortunately, IFC right now is mostly a way to exchange data between one software to the other one, or to make the control, the coding check or the clash check, checking with other software as well, like Solibri, like other software. But to use them to model and to generate in BIM is still a little bit, as I can say, too early. Now, what we can see is that when the customers are requesting us, we've set already all the families dedicated to be in one file, in one software, two software. So can be Revit, can be SketchUp, can be ArchiCAD, can be Allplan, because we work all those files and all those softwares, and then we prepare the files also for the IFC. Okay. So also that one is something that we already preparing, but let's say that from my point of view, it's still a little bit too early to thinking to work only in IFC, if I get well from the questions.
Okay, I think also Stefano can enter in the discussion, and I
Absolutely.
think okay, the box match is starting now.
No, absolutely. We say the same
Okay.
thing, I think.
Yeah, I say ciao to Stefano. Please open
Ciao
your
Alberto,
discussion.
can you listen to me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I confirm. Yeah.
Okay, so I proposed this question mostly for the reason that, as you probably know, over here in Italy, we have a law, which is number 560, called Law about the BIM, made by Minister Del Rio. And at point Article 4, this law is saying that we must work in the interoperability way.
Yes.
Sorry, it's quite
No,
complicated.
yeah, it's the most complex word in
Yes,
BIM.
right. And this article is saying how we have to consider the fines. And so it is describing two different types of fines. The first one is the platform. So it means the project file. So the file that we can save once we have finished, for example, or once we are at a certain status. So we can export, and we export a project file that can be shared. We can export into IFC. I fully agree with you. IFC is really in the perfect line of BIM.
Yes.
The second part is the file about the products. Our law, which is coming from the description of the BIM, is saying that any product file should be a file, an open file, an independent file, and a file created and managed by an independent standardization body, which can be national or international. This is the key point. And this key point is saying that, for example, RFA files, like all the files, proprietary files proposed by the different software developers, like Autodesk, like we know, they are not, and they cannot be considered as BIM files. This is the point. So the paradox is that if we go on in this way, It means that once we are going to have all the Italian law ready, so it means that in 2025, which means next year, the law will be mandatory over here in Italy. It won't be possible, for example, for the lighting world to supply a file to the public body, because
Absolutely.
all the files now managed by the different developers, they are not BIM files, and so they cannot be supplied. Otherwise, the tender, in case the public tender, would be considered out of law. This is really a key point. And from our point of view, I do not see, after many pressure I did all over, I do not see the political goal to reach such a goal. And I don't know how it can be. It can be solved. It can be solved in the future.
Yeah. Also because we have another problem that whatever we are doing with the software, we cannot do with the IFC. So imagine to develop, as we are doing, 700 apartments in Milan, positioning lightings, positioning everything in a software through particular way to develop, associate the objects and so on, we can do pretty easily. With the IFC and the tools that we having for IFC and so on, it's pretty tough. So from my point of view, probably there will be, like every time, a mismatching between the real life and the laws. From the other point of views, we can say that from a point of view of integration with the public, like what we are doing with the Magno since the last 3-4 years, IFC and so on, absolutely is the exchanging way and the final result. From the other hand, what I agree with you, Stefano, that it's as you can say, it's really a paradox, because they are saying something that they cannot be managed by the way where by the needs of the developments that they are right now in the fields.
Yes, this is the point.
That it's that is something that, and we are pretty sure, as they comes from Europe, and we will have our as guest in Skeinholding at the beginning of, and maybe that one can be also interesting for you, Stefano, if you want to join. I took here the point. If you want to join on the 2nd of April, we will have with us Marzia Bolfani for 1 hour into our meetings. And it will be maybe interesting also to talk with her about this one, because she can also tell us from the European point of view what they think on it, because in Europe, they are pushing a lot on that matters. But if you think to the common scenario, it's still something that is not feasible due to limitations, due to the way to work, due to the concept, due to the mentality, because we already did a big jump from CAD to BIM. And if now we need to do another big jump, changing the way to work for that reasons, I see pretty tough, to be honest with you.
I fully agree with you. And I like to add that it is becoming more and more a question of freedom, because there are huge interest in the way not to develop IFC.
Massive interest.
Massive interest. It's comprehensible, but so we have to focus on what we would like to have for the future. A monopoly or freedom. These are the two points.
I agree. And if I can say, as I was saying before, as a Skeinholding, we have a part that is dedicated to IT. And for example, our software BIM facility works in IFC completely. And also we implement the modification of the IFC and so on, because we would like to avoid the monopoly from particular companies. from the other hand, they are giving some skills that they are not so common to achieve on a software side in terms of IFC right now, from my point of view, from what I can see as also a developer of software. Some parts are still need to be developed much more in the IFC to be able to give the same feedback on the software is giving right now. Because the main problem is that even if we are in meetings with the Uni or with we are into also ASSO BIM and so on, no? And we talk about interoperability. You see that there is not such a lot of interest due to the big interest that there is between it. But from an office like us, like maybe you, like also our customers that we have, just only us, we have 50 licenses approximately to manage. Some other customers have 150 licenses that they are really costly. And you don't have any other option to go, or you need to choose only one, let's say, because it's the most common one. And it's already a monopoly. In our way. So if there is any way, Stefano, to support in IFC as a Skeinholding, we are more than welcome to participate, to be honest. Absolutely.
I agree with you. From the point of view of the study we did about creating an IFC file for luminaires, coming from the European standard 17623 for luminaires, BIM properties for luminaires and sensors. So all the work was already done. Creating the file is only the missing part. So it means that probably in we cannot say 6 months, but in less than a year, the file could be ready. But we come back to the problem we described before. It's a political problem.
Absolutely.
It's a political issue.
Absolutely.
We see.
Okay.
In any case, if you want, we can share experiences.
Absolutely. I'm more than welcome to explore it with the BIM Misty, we say here in office. So
okay. We keep in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Grazie, Alberto.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefano. Thank you, Roberto. And we are in a European project, so our philosophy is already naturally for open format to let our products, and say about lighting, also furniture product, to go in the market and to be as free as possible with open format to enter in a higher number of projects as possible. Okay, we are just running a little out of time. I asked to Antonella to close today's meeting, and we see in I think 1 week, and I think we go back on many topics.
Ciao Roberto, and bye.
Ciao Antonella. Thank you so much to everyone. Bye.
See you next week. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.